Learning to code can feel like a total roller coaster, right? One minute you're on top of the world, and the next you're just staring at a bug you can't figure out. Well, in this explainer, we're going to crack the code on how to actually learn this stuff, drawing on some amazing insights from expert instructors Hira Khan and Adil Altaf to get you through the tough spots.
So let's kick things off with a feeling I am willing to bet is very familiar. You watch a video, you're nodding along, everything makes perfect sense, but then you open a blank file and poof, it's all gone. If that's you, I want you to know you are absolutely not alone. This is probably the most common feeling in the world for a new coder.
I mean, this quote from a student just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that giant canyon between passively watching someone else code and actively trying to build something yourself. Let's call it the knowing versus doing gap.
And that feeling of just not knowing where to even start, man, it can be completely paralyzing. But here's the good news. There are real, concrete ways to get past it. So we're going to attack this from two sides. First, we'll look at some tricky, specific code problems, and then we'll zoom out and talk about building a learning strategy that actually works.
All right, first up, let's dive into some of those common technical tripwires. You know, the weird little syntax things and historical quirks in JavaScript that make you want to pull your hair out. Knowing these can literally save you hours of frustration.
Okay, this is a classic. So a student was trying to get a switch statement to work for multiple conditions at the same time, and logically, you'd totally think you could write something like case 0 or 1. But JavaScript just doesn't work that way. It's a perfect example of a weird little quirk you just have to know. So, how do you actually do it?
The solution is a really clever trick called fall-through logic. Just look at this. See how the first case is completely empty? That's the secret sauce. You're basically telling JavaScript, hey, if the answer is case 0, just keep going, fall through and run the code you find in the very next case. It's a simple little hack that gives you that OR condition you were looking for.
And here's another one that trips up everybody, from beginners to pros. The type of operator is supposed to tell you what kind of data you're looking at. You know, type of 5 is number, type of hello is string. But what about null? You'd think it would say null, right? Nope, it returns object. What is going on there?
Well, the answer is kind of funny. It's a bug. That's it. It was a mistake made in the literal first version of JavaScript, and they could never fix it because changing it now would break like half the internet. So it's not a deep concept you have to understand. It's just a piece of programming trivia you have to memorize. It's a bug that became a feature forever.
Now, for the age-old question every JavaScript developer faces, should I use const or let? Instructor Adil Altaf gave a really simple, powerful rule of thumb. Always, always, always default to const. Just make everything a constant. It makes your code way safer. Only if you run into a situation where you realize a variable has to change later on, only then do you go back and switch it to.
Okay, so fixing individual bugs is one thing. But how do you build the right habits so you run into fewer bugs in the first place? This brings us to the big picture, what we're calling the learning loop. How to practice the right way for long-term success.
This analogy from Adil just hits the nail on the head. You don't learn math by just watching your teacher do problems on the board. You have to do the homework. Well, programming is exactly the same. It's a hands-on skill. The real learning happens when you're struggling to apply the ideas yourself.
So what does a good learning strategy actually look like? Well, check this out. The biggest piece of the pie, about 60% of your time, has to be hands-on practice. That part's not negotiable. But you support that with reading and understanding the concepts and, this is super important, knowing when to ask for help so you don't stay stuck for days. This is how you cross that knowing-doing gap. You don't try to leap over the canyon, you build a bridge, one small piece at a time. Start with tiny, even silly problems, then a small function. This slow, steady progress isn't just about writing code, it's about building that problem-solving muscle in your brain. Okay, so as you start practicing and building these little projects, you need a place to put them, right? But it's so much more than just storage. It's about building your professional portfolio. And for any developer, this is non-negotiable. The industry standard tool for this is GitHub. Honestly, just think of GitHub as your digital resume. It is a living, breathing record of what you can do. Like Adil said, when you apply for a job, the first thing a hiring manager will ask for is your GitHub profile. It's the hard proof that you can actually build things. Getting your code up on GitHub might sound intimidating, but it's really just a simple little workflow. First, you create a repo. That's just a project folder online. Then you clone it or copy it to your computer. As you work, you commit your changes, which is like saving a version. And finally, you push those changes back up to the cloud.
Every single push adds a new page to your professional story.
So we've covered the technical quirks, the learning strategies, and the career tools. But let's wrap up with what is, without a doubt, the single most important piece of this whole puzzle. Because the tools and languages will change, but it's the mindset that really separates the great developers from everyone else.
This quote from Hira Khan is everything. The goal is not to memorize lines of code. That's what Google is for. The real goal, the whole point, is to build up your logic. Once you truly understand the core ideas, things like loops and conditions, you can use that logic to solve any problem, in any language, forever.
And to really drive this point home, Hira shared a pretty sobering number from her own teaching experience. She estimates that only about 10% of students who start learning to code actually push through to become professional developers. Now that number is not meant to discourage you. It's meant to prepare you, because learning to code is hard. Feeling frustrated doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're learning. That 10% who make it, they aren't the people who never get stuck. They're just the people who keep going when they do.
And finally, a really powerful message from Hira about ignoring all the noise out there. There are all these old, baseless myths that programming is only for certain kinds of people. And as she points out, this is especially true for women. The reality is simple. Your background, your gender, none of that matters. If you can think logically and you're willing to stick with it, you can be a developer, period.
So let's bring it all home. That feeling of being totally stuck, it's normal. Those weird technical problems, they all have solutions. And the path to getting really good, it's just paved with a lot of practice. At the end of the day, the biggest bug you'll ever have to fix is that little voice in your head that says you can't do it. So, you have the tools, and now you have the mindset. The only question left is, what will you build?